There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey guys, this is Jay Ferron from Skull Riot, and you're watching BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hello everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather. As always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today it's an honor and a privilege to welcome Jay Ferron of Skull Riot, and they have released their music video entitled Blood and Crows on April 12th, the second single, Same Old, on April 26th. And their third single, Chasing Lights, on May 24th, and the fourth single, Running Away, on July 12th. The band is set to release 5 singles in total on this upcoming EP that will be out at the end of this summer. So we have Jay on here to talk about all this stuff about Skull Riot. So welcome to the podcast, and how you doing, my friend?
Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity of letting me speak a little bit about our band and what we're doing.
That's not a problem. And this is crazy how this came about, actually. So this is a COVID baby, pretty much. So did you think that this would ever come up about this, possibly?
Man, it's I think like a lot of projects that are now out, they're just a birth of boredom and nothing to do in COVID. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do with all this time now at home, just locked in? And I mean, for me, it was very clear, like I can get all these ideas out of my system. The problem was, like, I didn't know which route I was going to take, if it was going to be just focusing on composing music for film and TV, because I did a master's in film scoring. So I was like, okay, maybe this is time for me to like dig into that. But it seems like every time I pick up my instrument, which is bass, I would just start playing like some rock riffs and some metal stuff, and like I started to get some cool riffs in my hands, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should start recording all of this and make a song out of this. And that song it became 40 songs, 30 songs. Like, after COVID, it was like 100 songs. And then I was like, well, maybe this is a project. Maybe this is something I can pursue and get some bandmates and whatnot, put a name on this and go out and play,
The thing with me during COVID and doing all these interviews with all these bands, they were saying like, hey, we've got enough for 2 albums. 3 albums. Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking in the back of my mind, like, are you really going to put this out? Are these songs going to see the light of day? Because once COVID breaks, hey, it's back into full gear. You're not going to be thinking about that time that you're in. And you may not even want to even think about those songs because you're sick of what we went through.
Right. Yeah. And it makes total sense too. I've seen a couple of bands that started during COVID, and now they're gone because everybody came back to their jobs or to their regular schedule and their regular lives, and now they're like, there's no time for this. But for me, it was really clear. It was an opening experience of, this is what I like, and this is my passion, and this is what I need to pursue. So regardless if I have a job or my girl or a dog or whatever, I need to do this, and I need to pursue it, and I need to see the final consequences of this, Now,
you mentioned that you went to college and you got a master's degree in film scoring, but how much do you use that in everyday music life for you? How much does that degree come into play for you?
Some things come through, other things not really, because I'm not really working in the film or TV industry. I work full-time as an audio engineer, a recording, mixing, and mastering audio engineer for a studio here in LA. So we're basically just doing a lot of like hip hop and like some bands come through, some R&B, some singer-songwriter stuff. But it's mostly like my day to day is like recording, mixing, mastering, and it's not a lot of film composing or a lot of post production or anything like that.
Mm.
But everything that I learned in there regarding orchestration, production, composing, singing, songwriting, all of that, it does come into my world and when I'm recording people because I'm producing them as well. I'm not just the guy that records. I'm telling them like, "Oh, what if you sing it like this? What if you do this? What if we this? What if we do this and that?" And it turns out way better every time. So that's my approach. So I do use it every day in that regard. In my music, um, I think the composing part, like it does come into life where I can compose a full thing by myself and I don't need like a whole band to like bump ideas or like come up with riffs or whatever. I can kind of like see it all in my head beforehand and then kind of pursue it part by part. And the production side of it, which ties to my job, I can record myself, produce myself, mix it, and master it, and almost like get it done all together. Although I don't like that. I don't like to be like the guy that does everything
Yeah.
because you're like I found that you're like always stuck in this box. And for me it's always better to have like a third eye there that says, "Oh, what if you did this? What if you did that?" I hear it with fresh ears and it always comes better, with those inputs.
And you talk about burnout, man, that's going to happen in 30 seconds because that's going to not last
Yeah.
at all.
Exactly. So yeah, I was fortunate enough for this EP that we're putting out to have my boss, who is the owner of the studios, is an 11-time Grammy nominee, engineer and producer, and he helped me out recording the guitar parts and the bass parts of the EP. And then I have a good friend back in Mexico. He did the mixing for the whole EP. He's the head of audio engineering in a school over there. So I was lucky enough to have these people also adding to the product, to the final product of the thing that we're putting out. So I'm very proud of it. I think it sounds great.
So how excited are you to release these upcoming singles, man? It's got to be great to see the birth of these songs, get them out there, and finally just be done with it and move on.
It took me a minute to put it all out because I wanted to put it professionally out. You know what I mean? Like I put out products before, like bands before, songs before, and they just like, oh, let's see what happens. But with time, you realize that in order for you to be considered a professional band, like you need to play the whole game in a professional way. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
need to put it out with a certain aesthetics, with the right um, art behind it. You need to record it professionally and make a strategy to put it out and all of that. So it took me a minute to come up with like everything how I wanted it to be for me to present it, but I'm really excited, man. I've been waiting for this for like almost a year to put it out. It took me a year because I ideally wanted at the very beginning to find the bandmate, which is just a drummer, right? And start rehearsing with him, have everything good to go, play shows, and then release the music. That's what I wanted originally. But since I went before I found Sam, who is right now playing with me, I had to just release it. I had to like just be a one guy band and release it, and then maybe with that I found the right person. You know what I mean?
So Skull Riot is a bone-crushing, noisy, and powerful band. How big of a statement is this for you and Sam, if any?
Man, it's something to live up to, especially live. It's I love that we're a noise making band because we're just energy. It's pure
Mhm.
energy, and we're a duo, so we better be loud and tight, uh, and full. Like we need to fill that stage with music and with sound, being just a two guy band. but I love it. I really like the limitations and the challenges that a power duo brings to the table.
So, Jay, has these singles turned out exactly the way you wanted them to?
I think they come out good. I mean, I've been listening to those guys, to the final product, like many times now. So I'm obviously finding little details here and there that I would be like, oh, maybe I would have done this different and this
Yeah.
different. And I would approach this different next time, you know. But they're out. I'm happy. I'm proud. I want everybody to listen to them and have something to say about it too.
What led the track Blood and Crows to be the first song released from this upcoming EP? What was it about that one that you and Sam said, man, this has got to be out first? Or was it just the first one done?
It was one of the first ones that were completed with lyrics and that I found a sound. Out of those 100 that I told you I did, that was like the first one that I was like, oh, this is a sound that I can pursue. I like this. It's kind of original for me. And it just holds up to like everything that we represent, right? It's a little bit dark. It has powerful riffs. It's at a mid tempo because it's not a ballad, but it's not like too fast as the other songs that are coming. But it's something for people to like start listening to and be like, okay, maybe this is something that I can listen to. And yeah, I think that was like the perfect song to open and introduce the band for the sound that we're going for, you know. If you like that song, you're most probably gonna like everything else that's coming. That's how I see it.
Well, speaking of that, man, how's the feedback been on the release of Blood and Crows? What have you been seeing, you and Sam, that's been kind of fueling your guys' fire with this?
It's been very interesting to see how people are mostly amazed that it's only two guys playing, you know? It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
are you singing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm screaming at it. I don't know if I'm singing, but" uh, they're like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know you sing." Like, me neither, you know? But here it is. And they're amazed about like, "Oh, wow, it sounds like it's 4 people playing." I'm like, "Yeah, it's just 2 of us." So that's been cool to see how we are at least achieving something with a two-piece band that is making some noise or making people talk about it like, oh wow, like look at these guys, they're just two guys and they're making all this noise, you know what I mean?
Speaking of that with the duo, though, are you wanting to add any more to this to take it out on the road, or you just want to wait and see what all transpires?
I would like to keep it as a duo for as long as I can.
Okay.
Just because I like the limitations, I like the challenge that brings personally to make music out of just one instrument. And I'm growing a lot as a musician, just doing that, you know, like coming out with riffs and then, but they have to be melodic, but at the same time, kind of keep the low end driving, and at the same time, playing with some pedals to like get rid of the guitars at some part and just the bass and then just guitars and kind of like and singing at the same time. Like it's whole of a circus going on inside my head, but I like it. So I would like to keep it like that. I'm really inspired by bands like Royal Blood and Dead from Above 1979 and well obviously the OG of power duos, the White Stripes, you know, but we wanted to take a different approach to all of that and make it heavier and faster and um, a little bit more gnarly, you know. And I like the challenge.
I want to jump back here for just a second because you had recording from collaborators Robert de la Peña and then, like you said, 11-time Grammy nominee Mauricio Garza.
Yeah.
Working with these gentlemen, did they? I mean, what did they add to your repertoire of music, man? What did you pick up from them that they possibly showed you?
Well, working with Mauricio is always a trip, man. He has such a good ear for music and for sound and a very unique approach to recording stuff. So working with him is always such a trip and very good like vibes during the session. But he was completely in charge of the sound of the guitars. He's never done something like this where bass is coming out of guitar amps and stuff like that. So it was a challenge for him to see how he would approach the sound and the recording and all of that. So it was fun. But with him, it's always like you have to be very, very good, you know, like you have to
Yeah.
hold it down to where you're playing your part and it's coming good. If not, he'll make you do it again and do it again and do it again. And then you'll be stuck in there and feeling bad. But fortunately enough, I had it all rehearsed, so it was good. It was a good experience. And with Rob, well, we worked from the distance because he's in Mexico, but this is the first time I worked with him. I really like the mixes when he sent it over. Um, but me being a little perfectionist, I needed to like put a little bit of my hand on it as well. And then
Mhm.
what you're hearing is a final product of both kind of like our approaches in the mix. It's a combination of both. But he said it like perfectly. I just needed to put a little bit on the vocals and a little bit in the mastering. Um, but I think he liked it. He's worked with other bands before, like Rusty Eye. I don't know if you know them, and a lot of other people in Mexico. So, I mean, it was a great experience. Can't complain at all.
Are you still experimenting with Skull Riot sound? Are you still pushing out envelope, or are you just comfortable in the way it is right now?
No, I am. I'm still am. I don't think I have it down completely, and that's
Okay.
why I didn't want to wait to put this music out either. I just wanted it to be like, this is our first phase. This is how we're going to start. But it's just going to get better from here. Because I'm still experimenting in the routing of the signal and the sound of the guitars and the sound of my vocals. Uh, but that's just the technical part. In the sound part, um, composing wise as well, I'm still experimenting. I'm still trying to think, how can I approach this two-piece band and make it as heavy as possible. I still want to go heavier than Blood and Crows. I still want to go faster than Same Old. You know what I mean? Like I want to keep that. And then now playing live, now that brings another level of experimentation where how are we going to keep a show
Yeah.
entertaining for the people when we're just two guys and I'm
Yeah.
stuck to the mic 80% of the time, you know?
Yeah.
So that's another part of experimentation that we need to bring to the table, and we're just barely touching it. But I'm really excited about it too.
Any songs that didn't make this upcoming EP that you guys kept back possibly for a later release or just a later, just like a single down the road, maybe just to keep fans interested?
Well, like I said, like out of the 100 and plus songs that I did during COVID, the ones that I really like are like 30.
Mhm.
And I really have, like you said, like I have 3 albums done. They're ready
Wow.
to go. They're like written, lyrics, music, everything is there. It's ready to just go to the studio and record it the right way, you know? Um, but I don't have the budget to go and record 3 albums right now. And I
Sure.
don't think it's either like a good way to do it. I wanted to like wait. So the EP that's coming out is just the first 4 songs that I thought chronologically on this development of an experimentation phases of how I started composing these songs. Chronologically, there are the first 4 that I really liked. So that's how I'm going to approach this releases. It's going to be kind of chronologically.
Mhm.
So this is kind of like the first iteration um, from Skull Riot, if you want to
And you
see
gotta
it
look at
like
it
that.
and you gotta look at it this way, man. Everything now is totally different than say 30 years ago. It's all a singles game now. It's all EPs.
It
It's
is.
not a full length society no more, which I still love my full length CDs. I
I
love them
know,
still.
me too. Me too, bro. I'm every day I'm in pain. I'm trying to get more people to buy albums and vinyls and whatnot. But I
Yeah.
understand the game. I understand how they're approaching it right now. It kind of makes sense because think about it. It also was like that back in when the Beatles came out. You know, like they were putting singles out, and then you
Mhm.
put out the album, and people would buy the singles and just side A and side B, and that was it, you know. And then you have 3 of those, and then you come up with the album. I think it's coming back to that strategy. Is just way easier for people to just put singles out all the time instead of like releasing a full 10 songs album. But we do want to put out albums out. This EP is just coming out. We're playing the game. We're putting singles out, then the EP. We already have a second EP on the road coming in. After this one, we're gonna do the same thing, 3 singles and then the EP towards the end of the year. And then at the beginning of next year, we're gonna go into the studio and record the full album that we have. And then we're gonna do the same, 3 singles and release the full album. That would be like technically our first full-length album.
Mm-hmm.
But in between the second EP, we're already talking about a collaboration with this band called Rusty Eye. Like I told you, we're very good friends with them. And we might have a song with like a real guitarist on it and a real guitar solo on it, just as a collab. And maybe the vocalist, Mr. Ross, he probably would jump on the song and have some lyrics in there. And then for the second EP, we're already thinking of another collaboration as just singles, you know. Those will be just singles coming out in between EPs and between the album, just to keep the people also interested and us keeping us working with other people too, you know. It can get kind of lonely if it's only 2 people sometimes.
For sure. You know, I know these are your babies. I totally get this. But do you have any songs standing out more to you than any right now that's coming up possibly on these releases? Are there any that are standing out more to you than any right now, possibly?
Oof. That's a really tough question, man.
That's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah, it's like mini, miny, mo.
Yeah.
Which one? You know, I like them all. I think this 3rd single that's coming out after Same Old, Chasing Lights, is my favorite from this batch for the EP. Just because it has everything that I love in rock and roll. It has attitude, it has the fast riffs, it has heaviness in it, and it deals with like being a rock star and the devil and whatnot, and like signing a pact with the devil to become a rock star kind of thing. So I kind of like that story. I've always been like amazed by those stories. I don't know if you ever saw or watched the movie American Satan.
No.
Never watch it?
Mm-mm.
I think you should watch it if you like rock and metal. But it's kind of like that, you know. They're just making a pact with the devil kind of thing and then becoming a rock star. That's a very quick way to say it. And that's my favorite one from this batch. But for the album, man, I have like 4 songs that I'm really, really into. I'm like, damn, I can't wait for people to listen to this. This is the real Skull Riot. This is what's really gonna be like, oh shoot, these guys are doing heavy stuff.
Yeah. You kind of had your Robert Johnson moment where you're at that crossroads and with that guitar, you're going like, hey, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. Stealing a little bit. It's like a little bit of putting that story that every rock star knows, you know, putting it out there and be like, everybody will understand it. Everybody that likes rock and roll will understand that for sure.
So is the track listing placement going to be important for these EP and album releases or no?
I'm thinking it as energy wise, like what's going to come first was going to be like energy wise. I love, like you said, I love albums. I love to listen to the whole album of an artist.
Yes,
so for me, it's always been like a trip, you know, like a journey. When you press play on the first song, I'm conscious about, because this happens to me a lot and I do it a lot, that the first song is very important because that's what is going to capture the attention of people and basically what's going to tell you what's coming in the album, right? Because I've done it several times. I play an album from someone I don't know, and if the first song is not good, I'm like, skip to the second one. If the second one is not good, I'm not listening to the whole album. And maybe their first, like their best song is the 4th or the 5th, and I'm not listening to that because I like albums. But coming back to mine, that's how I'm approaching it. I'm like, I want you to listen to the first song in the EP and be caught, like, be caught and stay there for the second song and the third song, and hopefully you
Mhm.
make it to the fourth song, and then you're going through the whole EP, and you'll be like, okay, I'll follow these guys. You know?
Exactly. Because and I got to say this. I'm glad you mentioned it like that because, and people's gonna say nay to this, but it's the God's honest truth. There is so many sleepers on so many albums that didn't get to be
Yeah.
a single or a video that should have been, that I think would have propelled some of these albums to masterpieces. That's just my thought. I mean, I'm a huge Metallica fan. They're my favorite band of all time. But if you take a look at the Black Album, I think The God That Failed should have been a single and a video release. That's an epic song to me.
That's an amazing song, man. And like that, you're totally true, man. Like that, there's a lot of albums that are just hidden treasures in there
Oh,
that nobody listened to because they were not in the right place order, you know? Like it was not in the right order where you listen to the album, and you probably never get to uh like, for example, Pantera, The Art of Shredding is the last song in that album, and I'm like, how in the world are you gonna get to The Art of Shredding if you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you have to wait for 10 songs to get to that song.
Mhm.
You should have put that like the fourth or fifth song in the album, and the album would have been like, holy crap. Because people will still go to like the six, seven, eight song.
I agree. You're right. Like Southern Trendkill, you've got Suicide Note Part 1 and Part 2 back to back. They should have just spaced those out.
True. I mean, there's millions of examples like that.
Mhm.
Millions. And I'm always afraid of that. I've always been afraid of that. I'm always a guy that been like even having discussions with bandmates about this. Like, no, this should be number one. This should be number four. This should be number five. And let's keep this one for the ending or stuff like that. Um, I truly believe that when people listen to an album, they should start from beginning to end. And that's the whole point of making an album. If not, just keep putting singles out.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I
matter.
discovered Stone Temple Pilots that way when Plush came out. I bought that album. I really didn't know much about them other than the song Plush, and I was like,
Right.
I want to grab this album just to see because I like this sound when I hear Plush.
Right.
And when I heard
That
Dead and Bloated, I was like, oh my God, really? This is so good.
that's how that's what singles are for, to grab the attention and be like, okay, this is really nice. Let me see what the rest of the songs are like.
Mhm.
And that's the real challenge, I guess, for a band, is to put an album that holds up to the name and to the singles most of the time, you know. That's where also a lot of bands doesn't really deliver. They have three good sounding songs, and the rest is just fillers, an
Yeah.
excuse to put an album out. And then I
And you
think
can hear that.
it's detrimental for the purpose, I think, of the band. I've always been like let down by that kind of bands or by that kind of albums, and I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. If I can go down to 20 songs instead of the 30 songs to just deliver you guys the best 10 songs and the best 30 minutes, 40 minutes of your day, I'll do that. Like, no questions asked. If I have to let go 10 babies to deliver you 20 great babies, I'll do that, you know? Uh, that's what I care the most. Yeah.
What's the growth musically you've seen from yourself working on these songs that impresses you the most about moving forward with Skull Riot, man? What's that growth musically from you that you see?
The ability to create music just with my bass, just instrument, just one instrument. I don't have to rely on a guitar player. I don't have to rely on keyboards. I don't have to rely on anything like that, any fillers or like pads or this or a couple of the first drummers were like, oh, we should put some pads and do this and play with a click and have backing tracks. And I was like, I don't think we're gonna work because that's not my vision, and I don't want to do that at all. I want it to be raw, and I want it to be in your face music, and that is what's coming out of me. And I've seen a lot of growth in my left hand, which is the riff hand, because now I have to come up with this stuff that as a bass player you're not really most of the time used to. You're just used to like hold it down and like, yeah, feel here and there and whatnot. Unless you're
Yeah.
like a Dream Theater guy who's like all everywhere, or but most of the times you're just holding it down, and I love it. But this time I'm up front, and it's up to me, so I have to play both parts at the same time, and that's a real challenge for my left hand because I'm not like super fast. I've never been like super, super fast, but this is a challenge that I'm like, oh, I need to get faster now. I need to make faster riffs. I need to move faster in this and that, and go from here. And like, it's, I don't know if do you play any music? Do you play any instruments?
I had a bass a long time ago, and I tried, and I just got so frustrated with it. I just set it down and went, maybe some other time.
Well, it's never too late. It's never too late. Hopefully you can pick it up and be part of bass
What really
players.
hurt me though, what really hurt me though, Jay, was when I was watching Cliff Burton play Anesthesia and Pulling Teeth, and I was like, "Fuck this, I can't do it." Then I was like, "Okay, we'll try this one more time." Then I started watching Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I went, "Nope,
Right.
fuck me again, put it down." It's like, "Nope, not doing it."
It's very scary when you see people like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like, is he really doing that? Is that for real?
yeah, it's like, how in the world is he pulling that off? Like,
Makes it look
what?
effortless, man. It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just in rock now. You go to like funk people and jazz people, you're like, what? I'm
Yeah.
out of here. Like, I don't even know why I have this thing next to me, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and YouTube you can find someone that's like 12-year-old playing way better than you will ever play in your life. And he's
My
just 12.
God. There's so much
Yeah.
talent out there, and it makes me happy to see these young kids just wailing on it. I mean, Zach Wild went and played with the what was it, School of
With the
Rock, and
School of Rock. Yeah, I
yes,
saw that.
dude, they was playing Bark at the Moon, I think, and I was like, oh my God, no, it might have been Crazy Train, but they were fucking killing it with Zach on there. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, even Zach said, now I have a band that I'm proud of, right? It's like
Oh man,
yeah, there's so much talent, which is cool, man. Like I really like to see all these little guys and like young people going at it with rock. Like rock is not dead.
no.
It's just out of the spotlight, but it's still there, and we're still a lot of people pushing for rock, which I like.
I know you've been doing this for a while, but what has been your toughest, or maybe your best song that you've written so far, possibly, in your own opinion?
I have this song called "Flowing Through Rocks."
Mhm.
That one is coming in I guess what is going to be our first album, because what happened is our first album became these two EPs. So I'm just cutting the first album, or what was going to be the first album, in two EPs, which we're putting out this year. So what's going to be our first album, there's a song called "Flowing Through Rocks," where the riff is really cool. I'm trying to keep like the bass going, but also trying to do some stuff in the high end. So jumping through strings is kind of like a challenge. But the toughest thing is I starting to venture for this album to make solos, like almost like a guitar player, but I'm
Mhm.
really not a guitar player at all. So for me, that's a challenge to come up with like a solo part. And that song has a solo in it that's really cool that I was really proud of, and that's going to be a challenge to play live. And as well as there's a song called Origami Soul that also has a solo in it, it's a guitar sound solo. Everything is on bass. So those two for now, the ones that have the solos in it, are the ones that are like the toughest ones for me, because it's like, damn, now I need to perform that live too. and and that's a whole challenge. Like I'm literally sitting in my desk every day trying to play all the parts and at the same time sing it. So I'm like rehearsing like really slow, like dun, dun. It's like I'm back in preschool, man, rehearsing. Yeah,
You got to do what you got to do, man, just to get it down. I know that's hard to be
it's
a
hard,
bass
man.
player and plus be the lead for it and do solos and things like that. That's a whole different ball game compared to just a regular guitarist. That's this is a bass
Yeah,
we're talking.
right. Which is strings are like stronger and
Yep.
bigger and like they're way more separated and it's a longer instrument. So it's a whole different approach to it. But like, if Billy Sheehan can do it, maybe I can do half of what he can do and I'll
Oh yeah,
be I'll be good.
yeah. Les Claypool.
Yeah, if Les Claypool can do it, then maybe I can do half of what he's doing and then I'll be good.
So now we're going to get to know Jay, just for Jay only. We're going to pick his brain about what he likes on his side of his rock and roll ability here. So, if you could write an album, Jay, equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be, possibly? If you could
No.
write something come close to anything that you love, what would it be?
God, that's a tough question. I think Ride the Lightning would be one of my favorite albums of all time. I
Yes,
can hear
sir.
I can listen to that album every day and I don't care. I'm a big Metallica fan too. If I go to a more rock oriented album, like a more intellectual stuff in it, I think either Wish You Were Here or Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. I can also be stranded in an island with that album and be happy all my life. And finally, I would go really, really popish, I guess, but um, Abbey Road by the Beatles. I can listen to the
Nice.
album too every day. Don't care.
Nice.
Um, and finally, if you want to go like more on a heavier side, like a really metal, I've been listening a lot to Mastodon lately,
Oh, yes.
and um, I'm a real fan of The Hunter. That album I think is really really good. But
Good album.
Emperor of Sands is really good album, man. I really like that album from beginning to end.
Doesn't it feel like when you listen to these albums, and again, your favorite ones, isn't it like you're listening to the first time all over again? Does it got that feel to it,
Yeah,
kind of?
yeah, and I'm always finding new stuff. That's what I like
Sorry.
about him too. Going back to the first time I listened to those albums, and I was like, oh, this is such a good album. This is such a good song. And I'm always finding new stuff in them. Like, oh, I've never
Yeah.
listened to this little guitar thing that he's doing here, or oh, the way he's singing this part is really cool, very interesting. I've never really noticed the backing vocals there. I've never really noticed that fill in the drums, how it complements, or something like that. Like I'm always finding new stuff in those albums.
If you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show would it be, possibly?
They've never asked me that question before in my life.
That's right, because no one asks these questions as good as I do.
Wow. Wow.
I appreciate that, man. That makes me feel good.
No, that was a really good question because now I'm thinking and I'm panicking inside, trying to think which show would have been. I mean, the first thing that pops to my mind is Metallica. Uh, with I would have been Cliff Burton there, where his and this what's this very famous concert that they're doing in the like an open concert, and Cliff is just going through um, this solo part with his wah pedal before For Whom the Bell Tolls.
They played that on out in California, actually, out in San Francisco. Day on the Green.
Probably. Yeah. That one. That could have been an amazing concert. And playing that band at that moment in their career would have been a really, really cool show.
You know, they did Anesthesia and Pulling Teeth on S&M 2. Not S&M. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, S&M 2 with the orchestra. And they said that they have not played that song or that bass solo
Since Cliff
passed away.
Yeah.
And when they did, dude, the chills hit me so hard listening to that electric bass with that orchestra. Man, it was so damn good. That dude did it justice. And Cliff would have been smiling. Honestly, he'd probably said, "That's fucking awesome. That's great." And Cliff's dad was there. He loved it. I mean, so cool to pay homage to him, and I respect them for not playing that for so long. But man, that's Cliff's legacy. That song, that is Cliff, that all over it. That's Cliff's baby.
Yeah, that's Cliff. That's him. That's him
Mhm.
as a composer. That's him as a bass player. That's him as a Metallica fan. Like, that's him. You can hear all his influences from classical to Lynyrd Skynyrd to like Misfits. It's all in there. It's really cool. Talking about Metallica and the S&M, I really, really like the first S&M though. I think that one is way better than the second one.
Okay.
For like a million times better. And when that album came out, like that changed my life too, because like I told you, I did a master's in film scoring. So that was like both worlds in one, both worlds colliding and sounding so good. And I've never been like a symphonic metal guy, even though they're like, has all this classical influences in there. But Metallica playing with an orchestra, that was like, wow.
That was a game changer.
That was a game changer. And then obviously you have Megadeth doing the same thing.
Dave Mustaine
playing guitar with the orchestra and all of that, right?
Yeah. And man, I cannot listen to Four Leaf Clover without that orchestra. I can't do it
anymore. It's not the same.
No, it's not. It's like, okay, it's like you're
missing that, like those horns coming in. You're missing the strings coming in. Yeah,
I try to listen to it without it, and it just sounds dead. And I'm not knocking Metallica on that or anything, but I mean that's just a orchestral song that needs to stay there. But it's so, man, that's another song that can hit me hard because that song come out of nowhere from them. That's a badass song for sure.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, Mr. J, how can folks stay in touch with Skull Riot by all these singles that's going to drop, EPs, all this stuff under the name of Skull Riot? How can they do that, my friend?
They can just follow us on Instagram, Skull Riot Music, and they can visit us in our Bandcamp, Skull Riot Music, or they can send us an email, skullriotmusic@gmail.com. We accept any kind of fan email or whatnot. Yeah, pretty simple.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour, and you guys and gals know that. If you like what I'm doing, please go out and subscribe to our YouTube page, and I hope that you do. And support me, please, because unfortunately, without me getting a lot of subscribers, a lot of views, I'm not going to get the big boys on here like I used to, unfortunately. That's just how the game rolls. I know a lot of people's upset about that, but let's put BODS Mayhem Hour back up there where it belongs, folks. This is the home of rock, metal, punk, horror punk, all these bands that need to be heard. Let's put us back on top and knock this out of the ballpark. Please get out and check out Skull Riot for me, please. Check out all these singles that's getting ready to drop. Give Skull Riot a fair shot, and I guarantee you'll like what Jay and Sam are doing. So, Jay, thank you so much for doing this interview with me, and I wish you and Sam nothing but the best of luck on this, my friend.
I appreciate a lot your time, and thank you for the opportunity and the space and for such an amazing interview, man. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing for the scene as well,
no
brother.
problem.
I really appreciate it. Keep it up.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Rock on.
You're listening to BODS.
Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.